This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
All right, it's time for another thrilling adventure of the Wrestling Perspective Podcast. Here in 1 second, we have a whole host of stuff. We have Josh Mathews sitting down with us. We're going to talk about the passing of Silver King. We're going to talk about the AEW TV deal. But first, Petey Williams, do you know the one thing I really want to talk to you about?
Oh, what's that?
I heard in recent tapings that your Canadian Destroyer is not quite up to par.
What? I don't know who you heard that from, but go on.
It's the internet community, and I'm concerned because it's your advancing age. Advancing, you like that one?
Advancing age.
At your advancing age, I'm worried about you and your Canadian Destroyer and your ability to put it over and do it correct inside the ring. Just like I'm worried about our fans and their ability to get it done in the bedroom. So I'm here to offer you, Pete, some Blue Chew.
Intriguing, and this will help me in and outside of the ring. And so we're promoting this for inside the ring now?
It will. It'll put a little spring in your step.
A little bit of spring in my Canadian Destroyer?
Yes, it'll help you get it over. You see what I'm doing there?
Yeah, all the way over.
All the way up and over. Yeah. So what we're going to do for our fans, and Pete, you've got your Blue Chew, so you can sit back and relax and take this on cruise control. Petey Williams himself is going to give you, he won't deliver it, but he's going to give you a free order of Blue Chew. All you have to do is pay $5 shipping and handling because he's cheap, Pete.
I'm not that cheap. I mean, okay, this is what we can do. Just the promo code Perspective, and then we're good. It's free, absolutely free. I don't deal with the mail and all that kind of stuff. That's a federal type thing. So $5 shipping and handling, and you're good to go.
Blue Chew has the same active ingredients as Cialis and Viagra, so it works. It's made in America, so it's cheaper. Sorry, Pete. We know how you Canadians have turned your economy around and are surpassing us Americans now.
I wouldn't say that, but thank you for the compliment.
You're welcome. No awkward doctor visits because you can do it on a secure website, bluechew.com. You have a doctor will look over your prescription. They'll send it out to you. If you use a promo code Perspective, you get your free order, $5 shipping and handling. So no awkward doctor visits. The only thing awkward about Blue Chew is this ad today.
Yeah, I mean, I would say so. I mean, I only think there's one thing left to do.
Hit your music.
Oh, you knew it.
See? It's time for the Wrestling Perspective Podcast. I'm Dennis Farrell. He's Petey Williams.
How's she going, eh?
Pete, you stand every time you hear your national anthem as you hear it right now on the podcast. Are you still standing?
Yeah, I'm still standing right now.
See what I did there? I want you to stand. I want you to be tired by the end of this podcast. I want you to leave it all on the field, Petey Williams.
I would be standing the whole time if you played that on repeat. I mean, you got to do it.
Oh, one day we should do a whole podcast where the theme song is just playing.
That would drive people nuts.
Yeah,
guaranteed.
But I'd be happy with that. I think that would be my best work.
Oh man, yeah, we're gonna have to do it. I mean, we're an experimental podcast, so I mean, we got to do it, right?
We have a lot to talk about, as we said during the Blue Chew ad. We have the passing of Silver King to talk about. We have AEW. We're going to talk a little bit about their TV deal, what we know, what we don't know. That's coming up next. At the end of the show, Josh Mathews stops by for, you know what? It was way better than the first Josh Mathews interview we did, if you can go back to the archives and find it, where it sounded like he was being kidnapped through the whole show.
Yeah, but I think it turned out he was like maybe on his balcony, and his balcony was connected to some sort of busy road, and yeah, it was really strange. Like, you could hear cars honking and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I originally thought he was at like a monster truck rally or like a NASCAR race or something like that. We're like, what's going on?
Josh Mathews has a mansion under a freeway. That's what we thought.
Yeah, exactly. Or like he just was, at the NASCAR race or something. I don't know.
That could have been possible. So we have Josh Mathews coming up. Don't forget, we've worked out a deal with Fightful.com. The way the deal works is we'll put out a podcast. They'll have it 24 hours early than the regular stream. So you can go to Fightful.com, listen to the wrestling perspective there. Fightful has been around for 3 years breaking news, and now they've launched a premium service called Fightful Select. Go to Fightful Select. It brings you dozens of podcasts each month from 205 Live to NXT, NXT UK, Impact, Ring of Honor, New Japan, NWA. They have Q&A shows, alternative commentaries, talk about dark matches, breaking news, and so much more. Go to FightfulSelect.com. Thank you, or Fightful.com, and go to Select. Thank you to them and Sean Rossap for, kind of allowing us to piggyback off their fame, because we're two nobodies.
Yeah, I mean, speak for yourself. You're famous, Dennis. I'm a nobody. You always do that to me, so I did it to you that time. But yeah, no, I'm super excited about this. What you want to call it, a union, however you want to call it, partnership. I like the word union, right? Not a reunion. But yeah, I mean, this is going to be good for all parties. So this is making wrestling better, at least wrestling podcast anyways.
Can I say, give a shout out to one of our fans? Hopefully, one day he'll make it in this industry. It's Tim Lincecum, former pitcher of the New York Giants. He has his own Twitch show, by the way. If you are into Twitch, go to twitch.tv/CyclonesUSA. Follow him on Twitter, too. What a great Twitter follower I am a Tim fan. I'm a baseball head, fantasy baseball guy. Well, it used to be big-time fantasy baseball guy. He's somebody I've owned on my teams. Sorry, Tim, I didn't win either. But you are a 3-time World Series champ. I'm like a 1-time fantasy football champ, fantasy baseball. But, he started following me. I geeked out. I turned into Pete. I don't know if you're a grizzled veteran in the world of wrestling, but I got to ask you, is there anybody that's ever followed you and you kind of got excited or geeked out?
That's a great question. Put me on the spot here, and I can't recall off the top of my head. But like with Tim, like San Francisco Giants, this is how you're good. So I know they beat, I'm a big Detroit Tigers fan, back when Verlander played with them. They were on their way to the World Series. And the Giants beat them. And I hated, sorry, Tim, but he was so good that I hated it because he was, kicking the ass of my Detroit Tigers. So that's how you know you're good, when you have that hatred. But obviously you have that love as well, from San Francisco. So, but to answer your question, not that I can recall off the top of my head.
Even when you join Twitter, like a Jake the Snake, or just even somebody like that.
Yeah, I mean, when I first joined, like everybody at once, it was like how I kind of got started into it was I was driving home, and I think in my car was like Jimmy Jacobs and like Zach Gallen and maybe Brian Gorey was there. We were actually coming back from a Cleveland show where I had just wrestled Matt Cross. And I remember like Johnny Gargano was on the show. He wrestled. I don't remember who he wrestled. But it was like his home promotion. And they keep talking about this Twitter. And I'm like, maybe I should sign up for it. And Jimmy Jacobs like, do it right now. And I'm like, how do I do it? And he kind of, he's like, make a handle. So I did it. He goes, okay, what's your handle? He's like, all right, hold on. And he like kind of texted the Young Bucks. And he's like, hey, this is Petey Williams' handle, put it out there so people know it's actually Petey Williams. And that's what Jimmy did. And he's like, watch it grow. And like throughout their trip home, it was just like a virus. It was like 1, 2, 3, 4. It just kept going up in followers. And so like the Young Bucks were one of the first couple to ever follow me. And I think like Jimmy was maybe actually my first follower. So, I mean, I thought that was kind of cool how they, how that worked.
That's a cool story, man.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think I couldn't even tell you who my first follower was. It was probably me begging for followers at that point.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't even know how to, like, you probably remember your first day on Twitter. Like, I had no idea how to do it. I'm asking, I can't remember who's in the back, like Zach Gallen, who's already on Twitter. I'm like, how do you do this? Oh, Nate Matson was also on there too. You know Nate Matson,
Yep.
right?
Amazing
So,
Nate.
yeah, and so they all had Twitter, and I'll sign up and see how this goes. And it was like August of, like, I don't know, 2012 or something like that, 2012 or 13. But yeah, I mean, it just, and it grew ever since. And they're like, and I remember them saying, like, watch, it's going to grow like a virus. Watch. And I'm like, all right.
Wow. All right, let's move into some topics. One of the more serious ones I want to talk about is the unfortunate passing of Silver King at the age of 51. The only reason why I bring this up, you don't really have a background with him. I don't know. I don't think your paths have crossed. I kind of looked at your Wikipedia and his, and I don't think, unless there was a random indie show in Cleveland that you both were on, but you didn't cross paths, did you?
No, he never was with Impact. I know he was, obviously watched them all the time in WCW during that the Cruiserweight era. And then, while I was in Impact, he was doing stuff with, I believe, All Japan and AAA, that kind of thing. So if we did cross paths, it might have been once, but nothing memorable where it's like, yeah, we had a great match and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, very unfortunate.
So here's what I want to talk about. There were several media outlets that actually posted the video of him passing away inside the ring. And by the way, Fightful.com was not one of them. I thought any site to post that was tasteless. I don't know where you fall on this, because a lot of sites hid behind, this was wrestling news, and being that, we will post this in the name of news. Where do you fall? Because when Owen Hart passed away, there wasn't a lot of social media. It was pretty easy for the WWE to edit and kind of hide that video back in the day, unless you were tape trading, and that was kind of big in certain communities. I was a WCW guy, so I didn't watch that pay-per-view. And by the way, back then, pay-per-views were $60, $70. So it was a commitment to get one of those. I miss that, and unfortunately, in following years with YouTube, I ended up seeing it, and I wish I didn't. I did not seek out the Silver King thing, and nor will I. But as a wrestler, when you see a site post something like this, what do you think?
So I always put myself in the wrestler's shoes. Like, if that was me that passed away in the ring, what would my family, like my loved ones, think if that's being thrown around on social media and stuff like that? And I know they wouldn't be happy about it, and I don't think anybody's families would actually be happy of that. I mean, that's like the biggest tragedy that a family could go through is a death of a loved one. That's like that's it. I don't think there's anything bigger. So just out of respect for the family of Silver King and his loved ones, like it shouldn't be passed around. That's where I stand.
I may be unique, where I'm not a big fan of hardcore wrestling. Not that I'm against it. I just don't have the stomach for it. The tacks, I cannot watch someone falling on tacks. I still, just something gut-wrenching when I see Mick Foley go through a Hell in a Cell. Sid Vicious breaking his legs. Those videos, I'm not knocking the people who like that kind of stuff, especially hardcore wrestling. That's a taste, and then that's a cool thing, and that's your thing. Great. The gory, bloody stuff, I have a weak stomach for that.
And it's not for everybody, and everybody might think like, oh, it's fake, right? Let's just say that. No, because when you're watching a movie and there's like a lot of like blood and gore in a movie, that's fake. That's like, your corn syrup that has like red food coloring in it, or however they make blood in movies and stuff like that. This is really real, and I've seen people after hardcore matches come backstage and just recently at the last set of tapings, the 2 sets ago, when we were in Toronto, like they had a match, the Lucha Brothers versus LAX for the titles, and there was thumbtacks and stuff, and just those guys picking them out of their backs, like that's real, like that hurts. So I give a lot of respect to those guys that actually do it. Not my cup of tea, but I give them a lot of respect.
Have you ever been in a hardcore match or approached to do one?
I mean, I've done ladder matches, many ladder matches. I've done, ladder matches with tables and all that kind of stuff, and like, but chairs were involved, but nothing like thumbtacks or barbed wire or anything like that. I haven't. I've never been in a feud where it's gotten to that far where, we can't settle this, by a wrestling match. We have to take it to a barbed wire, like ring ropes or anything like that. Nope, never done it.
And at this point in your career, you'd say no?
I mean, I wouldn't want to at all. I mean, I've been doing this for almost 20 years, and I haven't been asked to do it yet. So, I mean, I don't know why I would start doing it now.
Let's move on. We don't talk about WWE on the show because you don't really watch much of it now that you're full-time in Impact. You're writing, producing, booking, on blah, 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 blah. I want to talk because there is a growing, I guess, movement in wrestling that Vince McMahon has to go. You see reports in the dirt sheets about how, maybe even Triple H is frustrated with him, but it's his company, his way. I wanted to ask you this from a fan, because we both grew up a Vincent Kennedy McMahon guy. Greatest heel ever. All the great moments in WWE revolved around him at some point. Everybody who wants him out now do the booking. And look, WWE, I get it. It's not great right now. We all will come back to it. We all still love it. But they call him Kennedy anyways. If Mr. McMahon were to go, just poof, gone, you never see him again, will we miss him? Because when I see him on WWE TV now, I know that we have a limited amount of time as fans with him. Whether it's age or moving on, we have a limited amount of time. He's 70 some odd years old. He's not going to be in it forever. And sure, he's not at the height he was during the Attitude Era, but I still love seeing him on TV. He were to go now and never come back, do you think we'd miss him more?
Yeah, I think so. First off, he's never going to die, so we don't have to even worry about that. But hypothetically speaking, if he were to die somehow, some way, I think we would. Like Vince, you could tell. You could see it in Vince's matches. He wasn't a wrestler, like all his matches, like they were brawls or whatever, just because of his character. He had to learn how to wrestle. But the thing he was so good at is, his Vince McMahon character. And that's what he's really good at with other characters and developing, WWE stars. Is he's very, very, very character driven. Like he almost, you got to be a good wrestler, great, all that kind of stuff, but he's more into characters, and that's what people connect with. When he's gone, I think it's going to be less character driven and more wrestling driven, which is a lot of hardcore wrestling fans. And when I say hardcore wrestling fans, I mean like people that will watch it no matter what. They're still going to be around, but it's going to be interesting because any new, what do you want to call it? Fans that are like not fans, just like casual fans, they're not going to get roped into it and buy into it because they're not going to be able to get in touch with the characters. So that's one thing that Vince McMahon's really good at, character driven type stuff. Like you could be the best wrestler in the world, but you're going to need a character. Whether your character is, hey, I'm the best wrestler in the world. Okay, that's your character. Let's play with it and go that way. But he doesn't like just, vanilla, really good wrestlers. That's just not him.
Would you put up with bad booking from the WWE to have Vince McMahon on television? Here's the catch-22, because we're getting bad booking. if you believe everything you read, everything still goes through Vince. Vince is hard-headed. He likes what he likes. And I don't know anything about him. I don't know if his taste in wrestling changes over the years. If whatever he likes and that's it, nobody really knows. But would you? But because I think I would. I think I would put up with the bad booking from WWE to have Vince McMahon on TV than to have great booking, an amazing show, and never see him again.
Yeah, I mean, it's something special every time he comes on TV. Like, whether it's on a weekly basis, like, when he's one of those guys right now, like, back in the day, you had The Rock, you put a microphone in his hand, everybody's going to be hanging off of every word that he says. Same with, like, Stone Cold and stuff like that. There's certain people where you put a microphone in their hand, they're like, okay, hold on, let's hear what he has to say. It's going to be important. And Vince McMahon's one of those people. So, and whether, people agree with what he's going to say or not, it's going to make news because people are hanging on every word that he's saying.
I don't want to see him go. I truly enjoy it. So let's move on and talk. I've been using that term a lot lately. We have Josh Mathews coming up here in a second. I do want to talk about AEW. This is a company where I'm on the fence. Not that I hate it or love it. I'm excited for it. We've talked to a lot of guys who have worked there. I'm more even kill when I want to see the finished product before I pass a judgment and call them a t-shirt company or whatever knocks they're getting. But they had their upfronts. It's announced that they will be on TNT. Here's a few things, and I've gotten this all third hand. I did not do all this research. Some of it has come from third-party Twitter. Some of it's come from the New York Times. So I want to make sure they get their proper kudos. This is the first time wrestling has appeared on TNT since the final WCW Monday Night Raw, March 26, 2001.
Wow. Yeah, so 18... Well, it's been over 18 years now, so... wow, it's pretty historic. And
yeah,
it's gonna be interesting. I mean, what else you got, Dennis? With that,
from a third party, I don't know if he made these comments, but apparently Dave Meltzer, when talking about AEW, said about 400,000 to 500,000 viewers would be considered a success to start. It sounds like streaming was a big reason this deal was made, which sounds like Bleacher Report has a streaming service. And they will end up doing a lot of streaming there. But 400 to 500,000, I absolutely agree. I think that would be a success right off the bat.
Yeah, oh, definitely. Like, so if you go back in 2001, WCW was getting those viewers, like, they were getting more than that, I want to say, even on their final, days. But you got to remember, less channels back then. Less of a share that you had to deal with and all that kind of stuff. Now there's so much. There's streaming. There's
networks.
Networks and all that kind of stuff. And, even network television, even their hit shows, like I'm talking about, like, basic TV networks like ABC, Fox, NBC, CBS, like those people, like, they've seen declining ratings too. It's just because there's so much more to, there's so much more out there. So, yeah, 400 to 500,000, viewers, that's a huge thing. If you go back 17 years ago, they'd be like, oh, this show's not a success. But nowadays, yeah, absolutely. Even if you look at Raw, they're only getting a couple million or something like that. And then back in the day, there was like 5 to 7 million, like, tuning in every single week. So, and people still feel WWE's a success.
AEW does have a trademark out for Tuesday Night Dynamite. We know that they will air on Tuesday now that SmackDown will be moving to Friday on Fox. I think that's smart because I am a creature of habit. I don't watch NXT because I have to go off the beaten path to find it, even if the beaten path is just hitting a button on my remote control to get to my WWE network. I don't watch much MLW. I don't go to YouTube and search out wrestling videos. If I'm on Facebook and scrolling and there's a wrestling video, I may watch it. I don't do any of that stuff. So that's why it's hard for me to watch Impact, because I have to go out of my routine to catch Impact. for AEW on Tuesday nights, I'm conditioned that Monday and Tuesdays are kind of my wrestling night, so it falls in line there. Unfortunately for me, and this is, look, I'm a WWE guy. I will always love the WWE. I'll support it. I'll watch it. I'm not going to knock them. Moving to Fridays is horrible. I'm not going to watch it on Friday. Maybe I'll watch it sometime during the weekend on demand at best, but if I don't watch it on Friday and Monday night happens, I'm not going back to watch it again. It has just passed me by. Maybe I'll read somewhere the results, or I'll wait until, Raw when they tell me what happened on SmackDown. I think that's going to be the big casualty. Friday night was, in my opinion, the worst move they could make for a wrestling show. And I'm sorry for Impact. I'm not a big fan of Impact being on Friday nights either.
Well, a couple of things with that. So everybody's conditioned. Monday is their flagship show, Monday Night Raw. It's been around forever. And people are, like you said, conditioned. Monday is wrestling day. That's what it's been. Monday Night Wars, back in the day, all that kind of stuff. Monday's wrestling night. SmackDown's flopped from Thursday to maybe Friday to Tuesday to Friday, back to Tuesday. They've been all over the place, right?
Live and taped and this and that.
Yeah. So people aren't conditioned to say, hey, Tuesday's a SmackDown night. Tuesday, there's a lot, and Monday too. Monday through Thursday, there's a lot of other good programming out there from the networks. There's a lot of good stuff because people are home. They get home from work before they go to work the next day. They tune into prime time and they watch stuff. Friday nights, there's not a lot of good programming on. There's some, but people recognize Friday nights. People go out, have dinner. They're going into the weekend. They're not going to be sitting home watching TV, getting ready for work the next day. So Friday is kind of an okay move for SmackDown. I feel kind of in the sense that they're not going to have a lot of competition for other types of shows that people are going to want to watch. However, again, people are out on Friday nights. They're not going to want to, stay at home and watch TV and all that kind of stuff. So that's why it's good and bad that they're going to be on Fridays.
All right. Here, let me pull this back up. By the way, I let my phone turn off. While I pull that up, I do want to talk about us real quick. Ringside Wrestling app. That's one of the new places where you'll be able to find old shows, new shows. We'll be doing some live videos off and on there. There's chat rooms, so we will be popping in and out randomly. Make sure you look for us. It's a really cool app. It's free. Not just our show, but they have independent wrestling matches and pay-per-views. I know, I think it's a Wrestle Revolver Wrestle Revolver, I think, is on there. That's Sammy's promotion.
Yeah.
They have Josh Mathews with trivia. Madison Rain has a show on there. The Kid Ref has a trivia show on there. A ton of other stuff. I think Santino does something there, too. Go there, download it, support them. They are an amazing group of guys building something for the wrestling community, and it's free. They're not asking for money from you. And if they're going to support and try to build a place for fans, I think we as fans need to go there and support them. Josh Mathews will talk about them here in a little bit, too, because he's involved with them. But back to my AEW stuff. And by the way, Tuesday Night Dynamite, do you like it or not?
I'm not a fan of the name. It sounds too much like something that WCW would use, in the year 2000. I don't like the rhyming names. I guess I could say Tuesday Night Dynamite. I think that's kind of cheesy. But,
okay.
Whatever, man. Everything starts off cheesy. Probably was when Raw came on, why are we calling it Raw? That's cheesy. Or Impact. Why are we calling it Impact? That's cheesy. SmackDown. That's cheesy. Okay. But personally, I'm not a fan of the actual name. But, it's just a name. Who cares what the name is? It's what the product is going to deliver.
Here's some more stuff. This is unconfirmed, by the way. A lot of rumors coming around this statement that I'm about to make. It looks like AEW and Warner Media Group is in a revenue split and a production deal, cost deal, attempting to confirm multiple reports. Which, let's say that happens, and you are kind of more smart into this than I am. Revenue split, self-explanatory. Production cost deal. What can you talk to me about? What could be in a production cost deal?
It depends if you're live or if you're a tape show. It depends on. So live shows, like pay-per-views and stuff like that, you get charged by like to have that live satellite stream. That's a big fee. I don't know the exact number, but that's huge. And then, so when you're doing that every week, just that production alone, that's a huge fee. If you're traveling, I don't know if they're going to be traveling, if they're going to be doing a tape show, a live show, like kind of like, okay, let's do a live show Tuesday, tape it Wednesday, kind of like how Raw used to do it back in the early 2000s and late 90s and all that kind of stuff. So that's what it's going to depend on. I mean, and then how many cameras they have, and what their post-production is going to look like, and what they're actually, the size of their crew. I don't know if they're looking to go all out like the staff that WWE has, it's going to be a huge cost. If they're going to do something a little bit smaller and like Impact or whatever, not use as much production stuff and limit your resources, then the cost won't be as big. So I think what they're going to do is they're going to be going like guns ablaze and just like, full throttle right off the bat because they want this show to deliver. I mean, there's a lot at stake. There's a lot of hype behind it. If they don't deliver, they're SOL pretty much. So they're going to be using, I mean, it's going to be a big expense at first, and then probably from there they might be able to be like, okay, we could cut this, or we don't need to cut this because we're making money doing this and all that kind of stuff.
This was taken from the press release earlier today. What AEW and TNT did reveal is the brand's mission, which is to offer fans a product that is less scripted, soapy drama, and more athleticism and real sports analytics. Bringing a legitimacy to wrestling. Wrestlers will also be given more freedom to explore their characters and highlight their athletic abilities. Other innovations, I guess it says, includes introducing statistics to wrestling for the first time ever, such as tracking each competitor's wins and losses as the wrestlers pursue a championship, analyzing their moves, assessing damage to their opponents, and providing insight into their winning streaks. Now, Pete, that sounds, in theory, like it could be good. A little bit too video game-ish for me, maybe. I do like the wins-loss things. I like the fact that it's going to be less scripted, which means wrestlers will have more freedom to talk on a mic and explore their character. Assessing damage to their opponents. Isn't that what commentators do?
That's what they're supposed to do, yeah.
And providing insights into their winning streak. Isn't that what video packages do?
Yeah. But, I mean, this is all stuff that we're talking about it right now, right? They're like, oh, they're going to do this, that, and the other thing. And then it's already done, pretty much. Like, there is some stuff that they're like, oh, wins and losses count, all this kind of stuff. Back prior to when I joined Impact, before they tore down the Livonia Mall, there was a little area in the Livonia Mall in the back area next to the paintball that we had like a wrestling arena set up. It sat about like a few hundred people or whatever. And we were pretty successful there, but then they decided they were going to do this thing called the Season, I want to say they called it. And we were going to be there like every Friday night, and there was like a group of like 12 or 16 wrestlers or whatever, and we'd all have turns fighting each other, or wrestling each other, I should say. And then they would keep track of a point system, like wins, losses. You got certain points for like pinfalls or submissions. So they really put the wrestling aspect into it. And we got about 4 weeks in, and then, obviously our ticket sales declined, and then you're using the same 16 wrestlers, so you still have to pay them. And there was like, some big time names there, and it didn't go through. But in theory, it was really nice because, people can keep track of it and be like, oh yeah, Petey has 2 wins and a loss, or Petey has 1 win and 2 losses, and he's going up this guy that's undefeated and all this kind of stuff, and so on and so forth. So I like the concept. We'll see how it goes. I mean, it's a lot to keep track of, and hopefully that's going to be somebody's job just to do that.
Here are a few questions that at least I have. Yeah, how long do you think AEW? You don't know, but this is just two guys having a beer talking here.
Yeah.
How long do you think AEW has before TNT will opt out? I'm sure there has to be an opt out, but let's assume a year, 2 years. There's got to be some point where both sides. You have the cons who are businessmen, TNT business. At some point, one of the two have to pull the plugs on this if it doesn't work.
I'm sure there's some sort of clauses in the contract. I mean, I'm sure they're like, oh yeah, let's sign like a 1-year deal with a option or a renegotiation of all this kind of stuff. So I mean, I don't know how long their deals are for. I mean, that's a good question. Like that's stuff I don't know, right? Like I know when in Impact's later days, they're like right back when I started with them again, they were on Pop TV, and then the contract is coming up, and then they said, yep, we signed on for another year with Pop TV. So it was a year contract. We knew it was a year contract, and other things were like put into place where, we have our own, Impact Plus, network, I guess you want to call it. But back when it was called like the GWN network, we in the clauses. So there's always new clauses like, hey, after Impact airs on Pop, 10 days later we get aired on our network. So you put in new things after you negotiate after a year, and then now that we're on Pursuit, I can't remember how long the contract was. I'm sure we've talked about this and stuff, but it's already been forgotten because now we're also on Twitch and stuff. So there's a lot of stuff that's added into contracts. And I just don't know how long there's this for, like if it's 1 year, 2 years, or like whatever other options there is in there. I mean, that's a good question. I'm sure that it'll get revealed more sooner than later.
One of our fans, Dave Cohen, presented these two questions, and I'm going to piggyback off the second one. But he said, what do you think? Would AEW be smart to establish your location or do shows on the road?
So if you establish a location, it's cheaper. Like when we filmed at the soundstage in Orlando, everything was already set up, so the production crew, you didn't have to pay to reset up or anything like that. You just had to do a quick, okay, yep, sound check's working, lighting's good, cameras work. You didn't have to do all that setup and stuff. It's already there. You know what your travel expenses are going to be a lot beforehand. You kind of know where you're staying, all this kind of stuff. Like, it's good. That is very convenient. But then again, you're in the same location, and then it kills it kills the city, it kills the town, right? Because it's the same fans, and they get kind of, if you watch Impact throughout the years, we're in the same place for whatever 10 years. You could tell like they're rabid fans when we first get down there, and if you go year by year, you could tell they care a little bit less and a little bit less and a little bit less because they're there every single week. They've seen everything. It's always nice if you could have a company and you could get out on the road. It's good. I've noticed a big difference since this past, I think, a year. It's been a year since we've been on the road and stopped doing Universal Studios, where the fans are like, it's nice to have a fresh set of fans, and they're more into it and stuff because they don't see wrestling as much. But it's always nice to be on the road, but their expense will be a lot greater if they're on the road. And I think they're going to go on the road. I don't think they're going to establish like a sound stage or one arena or anything like that. They might have like a home, like Jacksonville might be like their home, like their first WrestleMania will be in Jacksonville if they want to call it WrestleMania or whatever they're going to call it. Just kind of like how New York is kind of like, Stamford, Connecticut, New York is WWE's. Ring of Honors is always Philly. Impact's was always Nashville. Now it kind of switched to Toronto area. So I figure they'll have a home, but I figure they'll travel.
I think, look, the cons are all in. You're not going to dump this much money, and excuse my language, to half-ass it at this point. So I think
absolutely not. Yep,
they're going to travel. I think what it truly comes down to is where are they going to be booked into. You cannot assume that they're going to sell out 10,000 seats arenas every week right away. All In is a special attraction. I know Ring of Honor sold 10,000 seats, but I think a lot of that was because people assumed Cody and the boys would still be there when that show happened, and they were not. I think you book small and then grow up. I worry that they may kind of start going in at slightly bigger venues that might make it look a little bit empty, but they're smarter guys than we are, so they may go smaller to create a demand for tickets wherever they go.
Yeah, they could go smaller, they could go bigger. Like I know that an example would be Impact. We used to do house shows, and we knew we weren't going to fill it in like 10,000 seat arenas. House shows. We're not even filming this stuff, right? And we're only going to get like maybe like a couple thousand people, 1,500, which is really good for a house show. But the reason why we ran these big arenas is because during that time, I believe we were in somewhat of a recession. It was like 2008-ish, 2007, 2008. So a lot of these big arenas are like, yeah, the rent is free, but then you have to, and you work something out with them, right? So it ends up working in our favor to run these big arenas financially. They were almost like giving it away, like, yeah, book our arena, and then, you know, we could take a portion of the gate and so on and so forth. So there was no upfront cost kind of deal. But if you do run a bigger arena of 10,000, you only have 5,000, like, you know, you've been to live events. You see how, like, even WWE sections off and tarps off certain areas to make it, you know, not seem empty, just
right.
like it's blacked out. So, I mean, you know, it's tricks of, you know, the camera and stuff like that. So, I think maybe they should start off. That's a good question. I mean, they should do something like, yep, okay, we're going to start at this arena. It's like a 5,000 seat arena. And then if they have 5,000 more people that want to attend, okay, we're going to move it across the street at this bigger arena. If they could finagle something like that.
I think you create a demand. Like every show you go to is special. Sure, they could have 5,000 seat arenas, and I'm sure they could almost fill it up for I don't know how long. But at some point, they're going to start not being able to. I think if they started running 1,000, 2,000 seat arenas, something a little bit smaller, you create a demand. Maybe next time you go bigger, more people show up because it's a bigger venue. But you should create some sort of demand and to make the people be rabid fans and want to go there or travel to see a show. That's more special. That's the one thing I notice Impact has is traveling fans.
Yeah, I mean, but we don't go. I mean, I do see not a lot of the same fans, but our loop isn't that big. Like we got, you know, obviously the Toronto area and Windsor, those are like 4 hours apart. If we were running to Chicago, that's 4 hours from Detroit, and Windsor as well.
Wait, you're running in Philadelphia now. You're going to be in Dallas. That loop is getting bigger, Petey.
Oh yeah, I mean, we obviously branch out of our loop and like Las Vegas, Mexico, sure. But you know, in that little loop up there, like if you live in like I don't know, like in a Toledo area, you could almost make that Philly show, that Toronto show. If you want to drive like anywhere from 5 to 8 hours, sure, yeah, absolutely. You know, and they're gonna obviously, I feel like they're gonna run the Jacksonville area because you know that's kind of where they are. Obviously, I think they'll go to like the Chicago area, Detroit area, anything that's like a big wrestling city. That's what they're going to do. I don't think they're going to go a lot on the West Coast because usually, historically, you don't draw as well on the West Coast, even though that's where like, you know, the Bucks are from and like Kazarian and Daniels and all those guys, they're West Coast guys. I think they're going to, you know, kind of start off on the East Coast and stuff and just build up there and then get the demand over on the West Coast and go over on the West Coast. I could be totally wrong, but just thinking at it logically, like where are you going to sell out? You're going to sell it on the East Coast.
Now, this question also comes from Dave Cohen, but before you answer it, I do have a piggyback question before I forget it. Does this give confidence towards a potential TV deal for Impact, seeing where AEW is going? Now, before you answer, I will say this. I think every single major television network is holding their breaths, seeing how this works out. I think if AEW becomes successful, you might see more wrestling on mainstream television. I think if it's a failure, this will set us back where it could be another 18 years before a network takes a risk on a wrestling network. But what I do know, I don't want to say no, but I do think is no network is going to make a move until they see either a growth or a recession in AEW's numbers one way or the other.
Yeah, no, I think that's a very accurate assumption, hypothesis, whatever you want to call it. That's true. I mean, obviously, this is just me thinking out loud, when Tony Khan had this, he's like, okay, I got, these guys are my VPs. Who are some of the heavy hitters I'm going to have? And you're like, okay, we'll get Jericho, they have these big contracts and stuff. So he's putting a lot into it, but he's also going to be able to get some big stars that he could put on TV. And then when he goes to the network, he's like, yeah, Chris Jericho, you used to have him on your, in WCW, like, his name and all that kind of stuff. So that helps as well. But yeah, you're right. If this is successful, it could mean, oh man, other networks are going to get into the wrestling business because people like this wrestling stuff, right? So we could see a big boom again. If they fail, which I don't want to see them fail. I do not want to see them fail. Okay. That's one thing, because if they do good at this, it's good for the whole wrestling business. All right. But if they fail, yeah, I mean, it's going to suck, because then they're going to be like, yep, wrestling, we don't want wrestling on our TV. Just keep it WWE or whatever they say.
Yeah, that's what I'm worried about.
Yeah.
Outside of that, we do have another question for David. David wants to know, about 6 episodes ago, you guys had mentioned Petey Williams was in a contract negotiation. We have not heard anything since. Any updates?
Yeah. No, not really. It's kind of like we're talking about it, logistics. I know that coming up, I guess is this the only advancement? Next week I will be, going with the creative team to the meeting and working out the next set of TV tapings and all that kind of stuff, like right from scratch. This is my first time doing that, so I'll be joining like the likes of D'Amore and Dreamer and Don Callis and Jimmy Jacobs. So, it's going to be interesting to see how that goes and stuff like that. I mean, it might not even be a good fit for me. It might be something I totally fail at and I suck at, and I'm like, okay, I can't do this, or whatever the case may be. So that's where we're at right now. And I'll let everybody know how it goes.
Will you text me for ideas if you need some? Because I've got a ton of them. None of them are good, but I've got a ton of them.
Absolutely.
Good, man. That makes me feel almost special
that
you would entertain me with that at least.
Yeah, man, you came up with like some good stuff. Like, you came up with Killer Cross's cross jacket. Did they call it?
Yes.
His choke out thing, his finishing move. Like, you came up with that.
And there was something else I came up with, I think, but I totally forget now.
Yeah, you came up with a couple things, because this is what's good when you're at the shows, right? You're working on the podcast stuff, but then you got the wrestlers and everybody else. We're filming multiple shows. We're working on so many things. We don't have time to sit and brainstorm. But you'll sit there and be like, I'll be like, Dennis, what do you come up with something for this? And then you'll have like 20 ideas because you'll sit there and you'll think about it and stuff like that. So I feel like if we had more people like that around, we'd have a lot more ideas. Like, you had one job to do and you delivered.
Can I tell you one of the recent ideas I had, which everybody loves a fantasy book.
We might want to not talk about it because if actually... okay, tell me about it.
All right. So listen, outside of the news reports, which we're not going to talk about right now, I had this amazing idea for Killer Cross. His character is based on like anarchy and pain and hurting people, right?
Yep.
I always think Killer Cross should be a hired hand where somebody like John Morrison or Johnny Impact is going for the championship but keeps falling short. They bring in Killer Cross to help him get the job done, right? Almost like the APA, but he does it because, he wants to be able to have somebody under his thumb. Now, Johnny Impact can't deliver on his end, and Killer Kross will want to take that title from him just to hurt him, not because he wants it. Because in my mind, a Killer Kross character doesn't care about a belt or not, but you have to have a way for him to challenge for the belt.
Yeah, that's a good idea, Dennis. And maybe you'll see that on one of our upcoming shows now.
All right.
So, spoiler.
There we go. And if it makes it, it was my idea then.
So that's why you wanted to say it on the air. So it's like, hey, if this happens, it was my idea.
We're time stamping this right now.
Yep, time stamp it. And then watch it. Like, people are like, this is what's going to happen, all right? It's going to play out. Like, everybody's like, oh, I know what's going to happen next because Dennis already, spoiled it on the air. And then all of a sudden, the last little detail, when everybody thinks how it's going, bam, there's a twist at the end.
Ooh.
Like, we swerved everybody.
Ooh, I like where you're going with that.
You see?
All right, before we get to Josh Mathews, I do want to say we have shirts for sale. Petey and I last podcast made an announcement that we are no longer accepting profits from our shirts. What we're going to do instead is every shirt you buy, we get a portion of it because it's a third-party company. whatforapparel.com/WPP. When we get our profits, we are going to take every shirt profit, every dime we make off that shirt, and give it to rainbowconnection.org, which is a smaller version of Make-A-Wish here in Michigan. They're doing amazing things, and we wanted every dime that we donate to mean something. No offense to Make-A-Wish, but let's say, Petey, we had $20, and we donated $20 to Make-A-Wish. That gets lost in the millions and millions of dollars of donations they get. But something like the Rainbow Connection, which is a small, voluntary-driven organization, we want to make our $20 go a little bit longer. So we chose Rainbow Connection, who's out there helping kids, making dreams come true that they or may not have the opportunity to do in their last days, their sickly days. So we want to do something to give back because we're lucky. And we're not going to give back from wrestling perspective or Petey Williams and Dennis Farrell. We're going to give back in the names of our fans. So knowing that you're going to get a pretty cool looking shirt and that your money that you spent will go towards a charity, not towards Petey and I going to see Avengers Endgame for the third time together. We wanted to make sure that we do right by our fans and by our community at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, it's all. I mean, we're not bad-mouthing Make-A-Wish at all.
No,
like,
no.
$20. If you want to donate $20 to Make-A-Wish, please do it because they actually they need it as well because they have a bigger type of agenda that they have to get to. But we love giving back to our community, and like the Michigan area is our community because that's where Dennis and I both live. But I mean, they're like an indie company. That's how I like to put it. And same with us. We're an indie company, doing this podcast, stuff like that. So we're like on the same level. So we just love giving back to those upstart companies and those that are, willing to make a difference.
And you don't see a lot of podcasts doing that. And that's not a knock on them. But we are fortunate enough to be in the position where we can do that. And we want you to know that that's what we want to do to get back to you, the fans, is get back to the community in your name. Don't forget Ringside Wrestling app. Go download it. Be a part of it. Look for the Wrestling Perspective page. There's a chat room. You'll never know when Petey and myself will be there. Fightful.com. That's where you'll get the show 24 hours early. Thank you to Fightful, Sean Rossap. Thank you to the fans at Fightful who are giving us a chance and listening. Twitch.tv/Cyclones USA. That is, if you like Fortnite, if you like Ring of Honor, Call of Duty, watch Tim Lithicum and his buddies over there do some great job. I watched a couple of their streams. I was thoroughly enjoying it. I wish I was a lot better at Call of Duty to join them and play with them, because if you follow him on Twitter, he's always trying to play with the fans, which I think that is super cool. So good job, Tim. We're fans of yours. Thank you for being fans of ours. BlueChew.com. Use the promo code Perspective. Get your first order for free. Petey, where can people find you?
On Twitter at Petey Williams. Same with on Instagram.
And
that's about it.
Yeah. You got any shows coming up?
We got TV tapings in, I want to say, the New York area on June 6th and 7th. That's our next set of TV tapings. That's what we'll be writing next week. And then that'll fall into what's next after that. I think it's the pay-per-view, July 7th in Dallas, Slammiversary. I think I might be missing one in between. I know we have some Twitch shows and all that kind of stuff, but those are the big ones as it stands right now.
All right, you can follow me on Twitter at Dennis77Farrell, Farrell. Make sure you go and subscribe to the Wrestling Perspective. You get this. You get the radio show with Russ McCall and myself, heard on SB Nation on 100 radio stations. We're going to add some more stuff there, especially now with Ringside app. We'll upload that to our page. So make sure you go to WrestlingPerspectivePodcast.com. We are anywhere where you get your podcasts. You can just look for Wrestling Perspective. Hear Josh Mathews in 2 seconds. But Pete, this was a good show, man. Thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you. I'm looking forward to this Josh Mathews interview.
Are you actually going to listen? Because, it's no secret. When you say I'm looking forward to that interview, I go, are you going to listen? Every show you're like, yeah, no, I won't listen.
No, I won't listen.
That you know what? At least you're honest, and I respect that.
Thank you.
All right, guys. Josh Mathews, thanks, and we'll see you next week. All right, no Petey Williams joining me for this interview, but it's the second time we've had Josh Mathews on. I'm really excited. Kind of a sit-down one-on-one. He's making lunch. I've already eaten. So we're going to talk some wrestling, a little bit about his career and what he's doing now. Josh, thank you.
Dennis, what's up, buddy? How are you?
I'm good, man. Here, I want to start this off with a question I've always wanted to ask you. And when we do interviews, we tend to stay away from guys past in different companies. But you've taken a Stone Cold Stunner and, commentaried a WrestleMania. And I've always wanted to pick your brain about how nerve-wracking that was.
It was so quick that, I didn't know about it till the day of, and we got things going, and I stood there with Steve, and I talked to him about it for a few minutes, and, he said something like, just go to your knees, and I said, are you okay with that? Just lean over, and he was like, yeah, man, like Chris Benoit used to take it that way. That's totally cool. And then, the next thing I knew, it was happening, and that was the end of it.
So I just had to fanboy out for a second because every time I see you backstage, I've always wanted to go, man, I want to ask Josh that, but I know how some guys are about talking about the past. But let's talk about now. Impact Wrestling, you've been there since 2014. You've seen a lot of regimes come and go. And from what I've been around, this has been one of the more wrestler-friendly regimes that's been in TNA/Impact.
I mean, it really is. And when I started here, and it's funny because I don't know if I'm here if everything didn't go the way that it did. John Gaborik was in charge when I first came here, along, of course, with Dixie Carter. And when I found out on that morning that I was, the WWE and I were parting ways after 13 years, I immediately called Taz. And Impact was running then TNA was running shows in New York, and he was, how quickly can you get to Manhattan? And I was a 45-minute train right away. So, I went down and basically, losing one opportunity at WWE, the other one opened up that day. It was literally an offer and a handshake agreement that day with Impact and with TNA. And then, I had to sit out my 90 days, obviously. And from there, I moved to Nashville and got started in the office right away. So I don't know if without that regime in place at the time, if I'm still here, or even brought in if it were to happen today. So it's really such a weird path that it's been on. And I obviously didn't know Scott D'Amore or anybody like that when I came to TNA originally. And, they're here, and I think through my hard work and efforts and all of that stuff, I'm still here, which is great.
I think right now what you're doing is the best work of your career. Not saying anything else about anywhere else you've done, but I've noticed with you and Don, you guys have this chemistry that I've not seen you have with anybody else, and you've had amazing co-hosts. But watching you with Don, I really have fallen in love with the Josh Mathews on commentary. Is that natural? Did you guys have to work on that kind of chemistry?
No, and it's so funny. The first show we did was a pay-per-view, and we got done, and he just said, "Imagine how good we'll be in 6 months." And from there, it's just sort of, I think we both have similar personalities. The hardest thing I always tell people when you work with a new partner is finding out, when they're going to talk and when you're going to talk. Once you get that part kind of figured out, like the cadence of, things they want to say, what they want to do. The rest, if you have chemistry, just sort of falls into place. And I think for Don and I, it's there. And knowing Don's position in the company, I always put that caveat on saying this. I haven't worked with anybody else that I've enjoyed as much as I do working with Don. And I truly mean that. If he were literally just my color colleague, color commentary colleague, easy for me to say, if that's the position we were all in, I would still feel that way about Don.
Now, I've interviewed a million people, whether it's with ESPN or Fox Sports, doing all that stuff. And I notice when I interview people, I tend to try to take on the personality of the guy. If he's low-key, I keep the interview low-key. If he's high energy, you try to reel him in and go with the flow. Do you find yourself, whether it's next to Taz or next to Don Callis, do you find yourself changing your personality to either fit or go with a Taz or a Don Callis?
It's a good question. And honestly, I don't think I've ever really thought about it that way. I feel like I try to complement I feel like I could sit down next to anybody and help them. This is a novice commentator or someone as seasoned as Don or Taz, and figure out what I need to do to either help them, bring out something in them, ask them a bunch of questions. So in that aspect, yeah, I don't think I ever changed my actual personality, but as it relates to, what I feel I can bring out of my partner in crime, then absolutely. With Sanjay Dutt, I knew I didn't have to call a lot of moves. Sanjay liked to call the moves, which is cool. That's fine. I don't need to do that. With Don, it's a little more psychological, where I can ask him questions about where the athletes are feeling, how they're doing. I mean, Taz was a former world champion, so with him it was break down holds, it was break down different things. So I try to bring out the best aspects of whoever I'm working with.
When I talk to people, when I talk to a lot of fans, and your name comes up, a lot of times, and this will ultimately be a compliment, so go with me down this road. A lot of times they're like, Josh Mathews, I don't get it. And then I sit and tell them about everything I've seen. You're right there when people take pictures and you help them do it. You do everything digital. You are nothing really passes through Impact unless it touches Josh Mathews' hands. And after I explain a lot of this stuff to people, they'll go and watch you, and then they come back and go, you know what? I get it now. How hard is it to have your hands in just about every single thing Impact does, and then still have to go out there and do your primary job?
Well, that part's actually not that bad because, I know these storylines, I know these characters, I eat, sleep, and breathe Impact Wrestling 24 hours a day. So that part's easy. Sitting down at the end of the night, Don and I always joke about this, that it's like the hard work's over. And now we can sit here, someone's going to bring us a couple sodas, and we're just going to talk about wrestling for a few hours. So that part's actually the easiest part. And then during the day, I mean, it's not hard to do the work. It's hard to, I've seen so many people come and go that think that they can do what I do better than I do from a behind-the-scenes perspective. And maybe you can, but you can't consistently deliver. You have to stay engaged 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, even when I'm on vacation with my family in Disneyland and getting looked at by my wife for answering emails and texts. You have to stay engaged or you will get passed by, without a question.
They have a bunch of Twitter questions. One is from God of Sports, who wants to know, what are your current backstage roles? Because this, once again, going back to this question, I've seen you do everything, but yet I can't tell people, yeah, he's part of creative, he's a production, he does this, but you do everything.
I mean, outside of creative, I think so. We have a lean team, and people have left, and it's been one of those deals where you just have to pick up the pieces. And the people that we do have around, they're the guys in Nashville. They work so hard, countless hours, longer hours than I work, because they get started earlier and they have to shoot later than I do. So those guys are the heroes, really, that do so much. All the guys on creative that work so hard too, and it's just,
Do you have any interest in jumping into creative?
My interest in creative, and I laugh because Scott tells me when I have some drinks in me, I want to be on creative, but when I'm not, I don't want to be on creative. I like having a hand in the our specials, our Twitch specials and our Impact Plus specials, and that's pretty much like right now as far as I would like to go with everything else that I need to be taken care of. Scott and I work on the talent that we're going to bring in. We work on the cards for those Twitch and Impact Plus specials, and then they go through creative and they go through the cycle and they sort of fine tune them. But really, like, those shows have been so much fun because from beginning to middle to end, I get to work on those. So if something goes wrong, my fault. I have nightmares now. They always say, like, the wrestler nightmare that you're putting your boots on as your music's playing. My nightmares are that I have forgotten to order ring skirts for Rebellion or for Slammiversary or for Code Red, and we're not going to have ring skirts at these shows. Like, those are my nightmares. So it's a lot of fun. And really, in 19 years, this July will be 19 consecutive years that I've been earning a living in professional wrestling. And, I've gotten to do everything. I get to work in marketing. I get to work in merchandise design. I get to work with creative on certain things. I get to help at TV. So, I mean, to me, it's like, I've built this knowledge base of production and marketing, and it's just it's been a fun ride.
I have to bring up your wife, Madison Rain, and from the aspect of I've sat and watched wrestling shows with Petey Williams' wife, and I see the concern and the look on her face whenever he does a move, which she's not a wrestling fan. You are a wrestling husband now. When you see her in the ring, do you get that sense of worried? Do you cringe when you see something? You go, "Ooh, that didn't look right. I hope she's okay." How do you separate, husband Josh from commentator Josh when you're watching your wife in the ring?
Yeah, it's tough, man. It's really tough because the girls in 2019, they hit harder, they run faster, they want to do amazing moves. They're capable of doing amazing moves. And, she is a veteran and she's been doing this for a while. And she, obviously it's one of those deals where keep up or move aside. And, I think she has proven that she can keep up with the Tessa Blanchards of today. And when recently on Impact, Tessa joined us for commentary for a Madison versus Taya Valkyrie match, and literally multiple times during the match, Tessa was squeezing my arm, like when Taya was hitting her, and like feeling the pain through me. It's really hard. So when I do see, okay, she's got the 5th match on the show. Once that match is over, I'll send a text. Is everything okay? That looked like it hurt. I get the yeah, it was all good. Everything's fine. Then the sigh of relief comes in, and the proud moments can sort of take over from there.
What is her schedule like? Because she's a mother, a wife. You both are on the road a lot, working for the same companies. I see her posting a lot of dates. How do you guys work that out into your schedules?
Yeah, and we have 2 dogs, and she goes to college.
Wow.
It's a balancing act for sure, man. Like, it really is. The good thing is now we're home for a month, right? Like, we just got done with 4 days of TV, maybe 5. We went from Toronto to Philly to New York, and now we're home until June 5th, I believe. So it's we've got basically all of May at home. So our schedules, it's certainly a balancing act, and we wake up and I start working pretty early in the morning. We'll eat breakfast together, take the dogs out. I'll go to the office for a little bit, my office upstairs at home, and work. And then, we go to the gym together, and then it's come home and work for the rest of the day. And then we sort of, regroup, when the day's over and the kid's home from school, and, you got to put different hats on. So, it's fun, it's challenging, but at the end of the night, when there's a ball game on or something, I am very much looking forward to a glass of wine and relaxing. And it's funny too because Scott Demore, we talk pretty much every day, either via text or email or by phone, and he knows when, like, I'm not going to answer or when I won't respond. And it's usually like right around dinner time and for a couple hours after, and then I'll dial back into work for a little bit until about 10 or 11, and then I'll shut it down.
All right, for my one morning campy radio question routine, You're trained in wrestling. You talked about it last time you were on with Petey and myself. Your wife's a wrestler. How much dialogue have you guys had about doing a mixed tag team match together?
None. I mean, it's funny because I guess like you get that bug to wrestle, but I just had a bug to be in the wrestling business. Like I think when it's all said and done, and I went through the toughen up process, and when that ended, and I did the independence for a year, call it, while I was back in college, I hated it. You know, I was on the road, I was alone, I was driving. I'm barely 20. I'm 20 years old at this point, and I realized very quickly that this isn't, because I did wrestling backwards, as I tell people all the time. Like I went from the biggest company in the world to now wrestling on the independents, and I didn't have that hunger to get back to WWE as a wrestler. Like I just didn't have it, and I knew I didn't have it. So when the opportunity came up to be an announcer, you know, I thought I can be a part of the whole show, and I can you know, talk about these athletes. Yeah, sign me up for that.
So I know you have a time restriction here, but I got to say thank you. Because
no, I'm good, man. I'm good. Let's talk for as long as you want.
Because last week, I'd like to go through people's tweets and see what they're tweeting about. And I saw you start tweeting about this app. And I don't know how much you can talk about this, but you tweeted about doing trivia at this app called, was it Ringside App? I went, downloaded
Ringside Wrestling.
Ringside Wrestling, thank you. I went there, downloaded it, and I have been on this app like crazy. And look, I'm not getting paid to talk about this. This is not an advertisement. But when I find something I truly like or enjoy, I want to tell people about it. And I've got a regular account. There's 3 different sections right there now. There's old school wrestling fans. There's indie wrestling fans. There's the In the Ring tab. And I think that's where you are doing your trivia. But talk to me about this app, because there's chat rooms and live videos and independent matches. And I think this app is going to start gaining steam.
And I hope it does. It's funny how this all started. The company, the parent company, is called Kiswe Mobile, and it's KISWE. And if you look up Kiswe Mobile, they're heavily involved in apps, applications. They work with the NBA, and fan engagement really is a big part of what they do. And they approached Impact, and just like I do with anybody that approaches us about doing stuff, you know, I took a first phone call and, you know, sort of talked to the guys behind the scenes, and I really liked what they were saying and what they were doing, but I couldn't give them really what they wanted because it was content driven, and our content obviously you know, goes all over the world, and these matches are a part of shows and things like that. So long story short, I couldn't give them the content they were looking for, but I wanted to help them because I liked them so much. So I put them in touch with a couple of the different independents, WrestlePro, and a few others, and I think there's some things happening behind the scenes that they're working with a couple others that I suggested, and then the idea was then they said, what about trivia? And I said, well, we could definitely do trivia. And it actually started with Johnny Impact. He was the first host. And Johnny's schedule is one that he's busy a lot. And I said, look, if you're not available, I'll just do the trivia for you those weeks. And it ended up, I just took over the trivia completely from Johnny due to his schedule. And I have a lot of fun with it. It's every Thursday night at 7:30, and it's all free. You just have to download the Ringside Wrestling app in your app store, and you can play along. And there's, you know, points that you can win every week in the games and stuff, and there's a lot of other things happening there, and you can chat with wrestling fans. I mean, ultimately, this is going to be the destination for wrestling fans, and I wish those guys nothing but success. You know, I help out where I can, when I can. You know, my schedule is also, you know, kind of busy, and you know, so I try to help them out as much as humanly possible. And I really hope that, you know, they're such a great group of people that I hope that they, you know, I've got my wife involved with them now for a little while as an influencer. So I just really hope that they succeed.
It's like right now on the app, I'm on the app, and it'll probably change depending on when people hear this show and it's uploaded. They're playing a Cody Rhodes versus Brian Cage match. You click on it, and there's a chat room where people are talking about that and other things, and you don't find that in many chats. You have to go to, like, Reddit, where you'll get ostracized for asking a stupid question. You go to this app, and it's smooth, and people are nice, and they want people there.
Yeah, I mean, really, and that's what it ultimately is. And I think there's some things in the works that they're working on to make the fan engagement even better, including like, I suggested, like, what about uploading photos if I'm at a wrestling show? Like, can I upload photos to the chat? Can I do other things with videos? And I think all that stuff's kind of in development. So as long as, wrestling fans are finding ringside wrestling, and that's why I'm glad we're talking about it a little bit here today, because I do think it's a place where fans can go and be a part of the community.
Look, I'm not getting paid to say this. You're not getting paid to say this. So when we're talking about something this long on an interview, it has to be good, because not a lot of podcasts will talk about outside things for free.
And that's true, too. And I've been asked by many people, like, are you getting paid for this? And it's like, well, no. But I have fun with it. Look, the trivia, I go downstairs in my basement. I have a green screen down there and a ring light, and I shoot it. It takes me about 7 minutes. They do everything behind the scenes. They edit it. They put it together. They put all those cool graphics to it. And I just have a fun place to go and kind of escape for a few minutes each week to talk about wrestling and wrestling trivia and play host. And at the end of the day, like, that's kind of my bread and butter as a host. So if I'm not updating ImpactWrestling.com, I get to go downstairs and have some fun and do some trivia.
Last tweet we'll get to before I let you go. This one comes from Madison Rain. Josh Mathews probably should talk about what a babe his wife is. I don't know who she is. I'm not following her, but apparently this Madison Rain woman wants to hear about your wife more.
I mean, what else is there to say that I haven't already said about her? She's, we just had a great Mother's Day weekend, relaxing, had a great dinner, taught the kid how to ride a bike, which was probably the best gift you could give to mom. And we saw the Pikachu detective movie, which was surprisingly entertaining for someone who's not a Pokemon person.
Neither am I. I was forced to see it. My 10-year-old drugged me, and I had to go see
it was okay, right?
It was, you know what? It was better than I thought, because I grew up before. I'm 41, so I missed the whole Pokemon craze. Thank God. But I sat there and thoroughly enjoyed the graphics, the dialogue. I mean, from top to bottom, you don't have to be a Pokemon fan to know that movie.
Yeah, it was funny. I will admit that I fell asleep towards the end a little bit there, but I woke up just as Ryan Reynolds emerged as a real human being, and dude, we have a great movie theater. Like, it's one of those like lounge, like you can recline the chair. Like, it's hard to not fall asleep in that theater.
Where were those when we were kids, right?
Oh my God, man! I used to go to movies every week when I was a kid, and they were horrible. Like, the seating was horrible, the lighting was horrible. Now you've got like amazing sound, and when I lived in Nashville, I went to the IMAX a lot with Bob Ryder. We saw everything. We saw Jurassic World, so many movies in that IMAX. But this one, it's great. It's the lounger, and I fall asleep, and everyone's happy.
And finally, before we wrap this up, what more innovative things can we see out of Impact Wrestling? You guys have. And I tell you, there was one, and it probably lasted about a month, where you made Impact feel like it was like Georgia Championship Wrestling on a Saturday night. It was really cool. You showed a lot of Impact talent at indie shows. I really enjoyed that. And then it was like you and Sanjay, or you and Don, I believe, behind a green screen introducing the shows, which I really enjoyed that feel for a wrap-up show. What else? Because Impact has evolved so much in such a short time, where you're hitting your stride. What do you hope to see next?
I just hope for a bigger platform, for more people to see what we're doing. I think that the shows, the creative, the athletes, the talent, the direction, the people on the roster, I think it's all home runs. So now it's just, can it be seen by more people? And I think that, through Twitch and through Impact Plus, you're getting these things. I thought that Code Red, selfishly, because I had a big hand in that show, but I thought Code Red was a great start to Impact Plus, which is, obviously we're talking about apps. You can download and subscribe to Impact Plus today. I think that's totally worth the price tag that's associated with that every month. And you get a monthly special. You get an exclusive show. Next month is A Night You Can't Miss, featuring the Great Muta. Then in July, it's a bash at the brewery in San Antonio. So I think that there's all these things that are happening. I mean, for me, like, if it's $7.99 a month, and I believe that's what the price point is, for me, like, an exclusive show every month, that alone is worth, $8 a month. And then you get everything else that comes with Impact Plus. So, I think that, with Impact, it's just continuing to be consistent. And I think that's the one thing that as someone who didn't watch Impact Wrestling before they came here, TNA, due to my WWE, commitments and schedule there, I think that the one thing I always heard was it's just not consistent. And I think over the past 2 years that it's certainly consistency has been key.
Here's the biggest advertising point for the Impact Plus is for $7.99, $2 cheaper than WWE, you get to see all the WWE stars on your app, and it's the same material WWE has reached out to Impact for to show on Raw, SmackDown, and pay-per-views. Why wouldn't you?
That's a great point. I mean, AJ Styles, Samoa Joe, even AEW guys, Christopher Daniels, you can see all of these guys, before. And I think that's a big thing for wrestling fans, see the guys before they got to WWE, before they got, and I don't want to say got to like that, like that's the finish line, that's the goal, but before they transitioned to WWE and before they transitioned to AEW, before they transitioned to, other companies, Austin Aries just signed, I believe, with MLW, is that right?
Mm-hmm.
But you can see, when Austin Aries became world champion, you can see all of these things, and start over as a fan.
Josh, where can people find you?
At Real Josh Mathews with 1 T on Twitter, and then just my name, Josh Mathews on Instagram.
And people can interact with you, as you said, every week at Ringside Wrestling app. That's, once again, phenomenal. Go interact with these guys. Not just you, but there are a whole host of guys funneling in here now to start their own content. You'll never know what wrestlers you'll see in the chat rooms. Go be a part of this, because I did, and I'm a fan, and I love it.
I mean, that's the thing, too, right? I'm there every Thursday, 7:30, during my trivia game night. I'm in the chat room. And also, wrestlers like talking to wrestling fans, as crazy as that may sound. So you may never know who's in there chatting along or just watching the chat and enjoying the trivia. So definitely a destination for sure.
Josh, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to talk.
Yeah, man. Thanks, Dennis.